All right, everyone. Welcome back to A Certain Point of View. Jake Berlin here with the channel. You can play on Jake Berlin, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't care. And I'm also joined by my co-host today, Mr. Brian Amosino. And we are back after a little week of a hiatus here. Mainly my fault. We had a lot of things going on.
I had parent-teacher conferences.
A lot of stuff was going on in our lives last weekend, and we unfortunately weren't able to do a show. But we are back this week, and we are very excited because we have a lot to talk about.
A lot.
We're going to be starting off with, of course, giving our quick thoughts on the throwdown that happened 2 weekends ago. Our reaction is up on the channel if you guys want to hear like our full in-depth talks about it, kind of reacting to the match as we go along. We're just going to go over it very quickly because it happened so long ago. And then we're going to be getting into the three most recent matches. First is the final exam versus the experiment, the teams match. And then we have Ethan Irwin versus Jeff Snyder, which happened this last Friday. And the one that we just reacted to, I don't think the reaction will be up yet because I believe I just got it on Patreon only. It's Chandru versus Brandon Hanna. And so if you have not watched that match, you might want to bookmark the show. Once we hit that point, come back to it after you've seen the match. If you're a patron, awesome. We're going to go into depths on that one as well, kind of reveal who wins and loses, unfortunately.
Maybe I'll put screen tags in, that way they can...
Yeah, we'll do some timestamps below in the episode. Brian will take care of those. That way you guys can see where that takes place. And then at the very end, we'll go over the points as of how they stand now, which will include the Innergeekdom match between Chandru and Brendan Hanna. So let's dive into this. We're not going to go into anything about breaking news or trades or anything like that because mainly nothing has really happened at this point. We will kind of cover the free-for-all towards the end because it is the next big thing that happens. But for now, we're going to get into the matches. And we're going to start with the throwdown. The big Schmodown throwdown, the live event that happened this past 2 weekends ago on Saturday. The family versus team corruption. So Andrew Guy and Drew McWeeny versus Mike Kalinowski and Chance Ellison. A match that definitely lived up to the hype here. It was something that we expected it to be. Kind of went back and forth. Characters came out. This team went up, for the whole time. And it came down to, I want to say it came down to the final question, and the family just weren't able to pull it. They were not able to pull it. They answered the question, and Corruption answered their 5-point to win, and they faked it like they didn't know it, and they answered the 5-point question to win for the match. And they tied the team's record at 36 points. And we can talk about the match, but the big thing that happened in this match is that Drew McWeeny announced his retirement. Thoughts?
The big thing was that Corruption won and is now going to take out the Founding Fathers.
Oh, but that's a discussion for another day, my sir.
But, McWeeny leaving. I mean, part of me believes it.
Really?
Part of me doesn't.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I have a hard time believing it, mainly because that is the second player on that team. Now that is the team that has both retired and will more than likely come back. Second, these people make split-second decisions, and I would not be surprised if he'll end up on a different team, he will be with a different partner, something like that. So I don't particularly see that lasting very long, if at all.
I do think that it might last long, strictly based on the fact that we've seen, like you said, we've seen this before and it turned around very quickly. I do think that Christian is someone to write a story for someone for Drew to leave for quite a while. And we also have to keep in mind that we don't know what's happening in their personal lives.
Yeah, these people have their own lives to live outside.
There could be something going on with Drew, like maybe he got a job offer, or maybe he's going on vacation for a while, or something where he's just going to be stepping away from the game for a little bit, and they wrote that in, and he comes back later on.
Yeah.
Very well could be the case, but it definitely shook the league because the reason why he retired is because his manager wasn't there, who is his ex-partner, who is Sam Levine, and if I'm not mistaken, the only match he's showed up to this year has been the Janine Machine match, correct?
I believe that sounds right.
And so, obviously, you have your number one picks going. You have your ex-partner going, your ex-champ. You You have Andrew Guy, who's no longer the dastardly Drew Guy, but the debonair, or I forgot what Shannon Barney called him at the beginning of the match or the end of the match. Debutant is what she called him.
Yeah.
So I am surprised that he wasn't there. Of course, we have to keep in mind that 1, personal life, 2, he just got engaged to Rachel Cushing.
Yeah,
so they very well could be doing something on vacation or just stepping away. Who knows? But Christian, of course,
could have been filmed the day that happened.
Exactly,
for all we
exactly.
know.
And of course, Christian being the Christian that he is, he writes in a story for it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because it was only the first match. It wasn't 2, 3, 4, 5 matches in. It wasn't in the teams tournament. It wasn't a title fight. It was just a match. And it was, at the time it was filmed, it was February of 2020.
Yep.
And so I'm very interested to see how it happens. Like I said, I do think, I would have to disagree. I think that it might play out a little bit longer than normal because he's such a powerhouse of a player. And to see that happen and then turn her back around quickly would be like, oh, well, then why did it happen? It's like,
I give it like a month and a half.
So that's a good enough time. But again, we also have to keep in mind as when will the next time we see them, it could be a month and a half the next time we see them. And so that all plays into it.
If his partner wasn't Andrew Guy, I would say, yeah, it could last longer. But Andrew Guy is in a lot of stuff. People love him.
Of course.
He's hilarious. So I don't see that being a storyline that people want to
not see.
So I'm
with you.
About a month and a half.
I'm with you.
I'll
okay.
say.
Fair enough. Any last thoughts on Corruption versus the Family? Obviously, Corruption getting the number 1 title fight or number 1 contender fight against Founding Fathers. Match has not been announced yet, but more than likely it'll be a live event. Unfortunately, they're postponing Houston because of worldly issues. But I imagine it'll either be the next live event or the collision that they're announcing in replace of this, just so no when. And so, thoughts on that? I know that, we don't need to go into thoughts because we know what's going to be said.
We know what I'm going to say. Can't wait for them to see them take those belts.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yes, it is.
First.
Nope.
So, like I said earlier, that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, let's move on to the next match because we have a lot of stuff to talk about, and that is a really interesting match that we had here for Final Exam versus The Experiment. We had Swag versus Corruption, Paul Oyama, and the new Lon Harris versus Elliot Dewberry and Mark Hoyk. And so, look, it's such a cool last name. Obviously, the two big things to come out of this match are on the Swag side in Paul Oyama and Lon Harris being two completely different players than they were just months ago.
Yep.
We know that characters can change and that people can change, but Paul Oyama legitimately looks like he has actually changed as a human being.
I know.
Like,
he looks like a different
actually
person.
Changed as a human being. And it may be the sunglasses and the jacket are off. He's no longer a part of the dungeon. I don't know, but I got to say this. I think it's better for the league because if he plays like this, like where he's kind of a little bit more free, he's teamed up with a delinquent player in Lon Harris. You have Winston as a manager. It could be a very fun Paul Oyama to see who's a little bit more relaxed, and that's kind of where the strength in movie trivia comes from. We could see him become even more stronger than he was before, which is scary because he ran through the league. He was a rookie who went undefeated to win the belt.
Yeah.
Like, never been done before.
No.
And he beat Dan Merrill to do it. And so seeing that even more heightened is very scary for the future.
Yeah, I was not a fan of him. I loved the whole dungeon team and stuff, but I still just wasn't a huge fan of his characters. We love to hate him.
We love to hate. He's one of those guys where we love to hate him.
He wasn't a character that I really found myself cheering for. The second he went normal, I liked his new. I don't even want to say it's character. It seemed like he was just being him.
Just him. Yeah.
And
you like the new Primetime.
Yeah, I like that whole because he looks like just a normal.
He's only 22 years old.
I know,
or however old he is. So
yeah,
he's like
just some normal kid that knows a crap ton, and then it also lets that play into more fun with Lon Harris's character.
So good. So good. Take the earbuds out.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, but I really enjoy his character and found myself cheering for him a couple times, which is against Corruption, which I don't usually do, but just his likability went so much.
I agree.
Up for me, in my opinion, at least.
the last time I had this feeling, and it wasn't that long ago, but the last time I had this feeling about a team was when Shazam got teamed up.
Yeah.
When Brendan Meyer and Bibbs teamed up together, and they're currently my favorite team now. Now that Shire Wolves are no longer part of the league. I love Shazam. I just love what they're all about. Like, they have fun, they know movie trivia, they're showmen, which is exactly what we want. You know, they're not necessarily showmen, but their characters are so off base from each other that they work. It's like this weird melding.
They're two nerds that work very well together, but in an enjoyable way.
And that is complete credit to Winston. He knows what he's doing, and I think it's also a little bird in his ear chirping with Jay Washington, obviously, you know, having the experience of doing it before. We haven't seen him on camera doing it, but I think Winston being there and kind of giving this different outlook, this more vibrant, positive outlook than someone like a Kaiser.
Yeah.
Kaiser's very aggressive, right? He's loud, he's obnoxious.
To the point.
Yeah, it's Winston, like, they're dancing on their intros. They got the drip drip thing going on. I mean, you have someone like Chandru in your corner. I mean, it just seems like it fits Paul so well. And then obviously you have Lon Harris, who went from the professor, like Mark Ellis said, he went from teaching the classroom to the guy in the very back of the classroom.
Yep.
And he became like this hobo-ish type of a character. And it's incredible the turn that he made in such a short time and how loved he is. Like, Christian was right when he said he instantly became one of the fan favorite characters in one match.
Easily.
And it's awesome because, if you don't know this, a little BTS, Lon Harris is the one that came up with the character. He pitched it to Christian, and this is the reason why it's all happening.
Yeah, genius.
And I love it. It works. It's weird. It's
so funny.
It's such a different vibe because sometimes you watch these, like, for example, Corruption versus the Family, right? Or Corruption versus Founding Fathers. It's so serious.
Yes.
It's so serious, and it's like, I get it. Look, this is the sport. This is what it is. Some teams do that. That's just what it is. But that's why I love Shazam so much, is because they're so free and open to just the game and the aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it seems like Final Exam is kind of doing the same thing. And again, I really do think that it's a large in part credit to Winston and a little bit of Jay Washington.
Yeah, I mean, it's for them to put those two together and it working like that. It's
and just their first match, because we talked about it with Paul and Tom in the den, how it didn't really work.
No,
it just seemed to work like right off the bat.
Yeah, those two like had a flow from the beginning, and it could have been just like everyone seemed to be having a good time. Mm-hmm. Maybe not Mark Hoyt, just because that's his.
Well, he was having a good time in his own way.
Yeah, I'm sure, but like, I don't know. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was probably one of the most fun matches that I've seen in a long time. I was laughing
I agree.
The whole entire time, especially with what Corruption is doing with Elliot Dewberry.
Oh, yeah. They're just torturing.
My God.
Torturing.
It's so funny. It's so funny. He has no business being on that team, and he knows it, but it's just so funny.
Yes, it could have gone two ways, where Shannon obviously at the awards drafted him in spite of Winston drafting Makuga to break up the Wildberries, right? And she could have been like, okay, I made the move. Now we're going to do what we can to win matches.
Yep.
But instead, she goes the other route, and she's like, I picked him. I'm going to torture the hell out of him for the entire year. Because guess what? Wildberries don't fit on this team, and I'm going to make sure he feels it.
Yeah.
And it works, especially teaming him with someone who is as dark and scary as Mark Hoyt. It just, it like Final Exam, where it works in a weird and quirky way, this kind of works because they're both relatively good at movie trivia.
Yeah. But
the reason it works is because they're so opposite at movie trivia. And the weirdness of, like, Elliot being scared, like, he spun Opponent's Choice, and he was terrified. He, like, didn't know what to do with himself. And it's funny because we don't have a team like that in the league.
No, you don't. And I don't think we ever really have, where you feel like you're watching this kidnapped person.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to say it. Yes.
Just, like, compete for his life. And it's just, it's so funny. Like, I know they lost, so it makes it, like, more difficult, obviously, to play them. But I hope we see more of them. Just out of the sheer storyline, that is one of the best storylines. And then you got Shannon afterwards saying, like, so you talked to Makuga lately?
Yes, yes.
He's busy with his show.
She's slowly digging her claws. And it's going to be interesting, like, if obviously we can kind of picture as to what's going to happen. If we do see more of them, and there are more scenes like that, we could see a corruptionized Elliot Dewberry by the end of 2020, which would be amazing to see.
This is what I'm praying for. He eventually turns evil and has to go against Makuga and his partner, and Makuga just being like, no, just like
100%.
I would pay top dollar to see that, just out of just pure comedy.
Well, and Makuga on the afternoons this past week, he said he's like, yeah, I miss Dewberry. Like, I miss him, and so it's playing into everything. And I hope we see more of them, because I want to see that match where, even if it's just like a Patreon match, I want to see that happen where it's a corruptionized Elliot Dewberry versus a swag Josh Makuga. Makuga trying to give him a beer, he's like, no, I don't want a beer.
I could just see him like in like a cloak and just like pure evil, just like, oh my god, that would be the best. The best. I cannot wait.
Christian, if you're watching this or listening to this, please make that happen. That would be incredible. All right, any final thoughts on Final Exam and the experiment?
No, Final Exam is scary good. Mm-hmm. Scary good. And, I mean, honestly, Dewberry and Mark Hoyk were not slumps either.
No, not at all. Not at all. They missed a few questions that if they may have just taken their time a little bit more, they probably could have pulled.
Probably. So, really curious to see where these two teams go, and especially Final Exam. They're going to be a threat.
I mean, I'll hold off until I see them again, or until they face someone who maybe is a little bit higher of a caliber team. But I would feel comfortable saying that they could be the new Shazam, where they kind of just move along through the year, through the teams, play their game, and we see them at the end, possibly in the tournament or spectacular or something, making some noise. Yeah. I won't say that they're going to win the belts just yet. But remember, Paul is a former champion. Lon Harris has the knowledge to be a champion. You team them together, and you find the commonality of having a little bit of fun. It's a dangerous combo.
Very dangerous. So, looking forward to it.
Cool. All right, well, let's get to our final two matches here. First up, we have the major singles match that happened this last Friday. And that is Ethan Big Time Irwin versus Jeff the Ian Snyder. Burning Droogs versus the Rock Stars. And I'll say this as well. These three matches that we've been talking about so far, Brian and I both were on opposite sides.
Yeah.
Strictly because Brian took the corruption matches because he's going to go corruption all the time. I went with what I felt was right, and I chose the family and Final Exam.
You felt was right. And your moral compass.
And so we were on opposite sides on all three of these. And so I took Jeff Snyder in this one, excuse me.
Yeah.
And you took Ethan Irwin strictly because you're just a major fan of Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
I wouldn't say because of that. When I met them at awards, like Ethan...
They were more friendly.
Yeah. I sat there and talked to Ethan Irwin, and he knows his stuff. And, like, he's someone you can never doubt. Ever. Like, yeah, he's not around as much, but like he still knows his stuff. And
well,
so
a spoiler, if he wins like this, he doesn't need to be as around as much. Only when his name is called.
Yeah. So I just kind of went more towards favoritism of that side. But yeah, that's what I went.
Yeah, so this match, unlike the previous two, was a little bit of a twister here. They both started off very hot, right? First round was very good for the both of them. If I'm not mistaken, as I'm scrolling, and I just hit an ad while I'm scrolling through, just like our reaction.
Nice, I know. They're making that coin.
Yes, exactly. They didn't. Neither of them went perfect. If I'm not mistaken. So. But Snyder came out on top in the second round, and he had I think he had like a 5-point lead or something.
It was a nice lead.
And so we're like, okay, like this is kind of not what we were expecting. You know, Snyder came out hot. He was driven. He was there. He was ready. And all of a sudden, the tables turned, and Ethan hits all three of his third round questions. Right, he pulls that 5-point question, and Snyder gets up. He's all kind of flustered because he thought he had it. He didn't think he had it. It was the Killer Joe question with Matthew McConaughey. And so Snyder now has to answer his questions, and he gets that dreaded 5-point question about the 1980s, who narrated World War or Part 1 of a World War II documentary.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there, and old Snyder kind of comes out a little bit, right? You kind of see him get flustered.
Yep.
He's a little pissed off. His mind gets off the game a little bit. He uses a JTEs like he should have, but it didn't seem like he was really thinking it through. Unfortunately, he couldn't pull it. Ethan Irwin comes from behind and wins by 1 point in the closest match we've seen by far this year, and the match that we were kind of expecting. But I'll be honest, I was surprised because usually in the third round, when someone has that kind of lead, it doesn't usually get overcame.
No.
Ever.
No.
And so I was, especially with a caliber player like Snyder, or even Ethan Irwin as well, and so I was definitely surprised to see Irwin come out on top on that one.
I mean, obviously that's who I picked, but the way it was looking, it did not look good for Ethan Irwin. And then it's one of those things. You know, one question more than someone, and it wins you the game.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder was visibly pissed, very upset, because obviously it came down to that one question, and he knew he had him 75, if not more percent of the game, and then one question took the win from him, and it's unfortunate. It's where the coin falls, but it happens. It sucks to be winning the whole or majority of the time, and then one thing, and he knew Irwin's questions too,
yeah.
and that has to
Luck
be
of the
even
draw.
and that just has to be even more bitter tasting, knowing that you could have answered those ones, but then you get yours, and it's what causes you to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. He did, whether or not he actually even knew what he was taught, the question was, the movie, whatever it was, you never know. You don't know if that is something he's even seen. If he had more time, he wouldn't have pulled. To me, it seemed like he had no idea what the documentary was.
As soon as he said 1980s, he was flustered.
Yeah.
He knew instantly
Absolutely.
like it was a question that more than likely he had no chance of answering.
Exactly. For me, it's hard to say that he could have, if he had more time, gotten it. It didn't seem like he knew it at all. But, I mean, he maybe could have just pulled the name out of someone from that time period if he would have just kind of relaxed a little bit more. But again, if you don't know it, you don't know it.
Yeah.
You can't pull the right answer not knowing it without a luck of a miracle guess. But I mean, yeah, it sucks because he could have had that game. That could have been his.
It was his. He played the better game.
Absolutely.
He played the better game.
But again, wherever the dice rolls,
And that's why he was so visibly pissed off.
Yeah.
That post interview was amazing.
We got our first beep.
Oh, it was
from
amazing.
his,
It was so good. We flipped the camera off and everything.
just walked off.
I was mistaken, by the way. They both went perfect in the first
they did.
round. They both went
Yeah,
perfect.
that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks, but it's what happens.
And look, I mean, he loses, right? And we've talked about it, and we're going to continue to talk about it. If you lose this year, your chances of continuing and getting more matches dwindles. But a name like Snyder, there's no way we're not going to see him more in singles. He's going to be there at the end of the year. He's going to be competing still. We don't know if he'll be at the free for all still. I know he backed out of the live event. Hopefully,
I think he said he's
doing this. He's not going to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's unfortunate because I always like seeing him in the free for all because that's something that he can thrive in.
Absolutely.
That kind of atmosphere. But yeah, so definitely a match that I was hoping went the other way, but a match that satisfied the
competitor in you.
The hype to it, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Because you have names who Ethan Irwin, a former champ, right? He wrecked through the league to win the title, lost to Dan Morone in a live event. Snyder's always been on the cusp of that singles title.
Yeah.
He's won the teams twice. He's been on the cusp of the singles.
He's definitely someone you don't sleep on.
Exactly, and I wanted to see him kind of take that leap forward because I always felt like he had it, but this Snyder where he kind of gets frustrated starts to come out, and that's kind of where I feel like that hurts him so much to where I don't know if he'll ever have a shot at the singles belt because of that reason. Because he doesn't have a Drinko there to kind of balance him out, right? And it's such a different style of game. I think he fits so much better in teams. Not to say he can't do singles,
No.
but because of it's such an individual game, if he thinks one thought, his game's over. And Ethan, like, he's cheering him on, like, that's a whole different side of the game. Like, Ethan's that way as far as a
Yeah.
competitor. Snyder will never do that, and I think that side of the game kind of gets to him.
Yeah, it sucks. It happens. You move on. If he was a lesser name, I would say his chances of being seen as probably slimmer, but he's a name people know, people like. He's not bad.
He's part of the rock stars.
Yeah, and
People love the rock stars.
again, he was pretty much winning the game. The score does not reflect the game. Because
Yeah, he was up 19 to, I want to say like 19 to 14 after the second round.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
if we looked at it from like the game versus the score, you would pick him every time almost. But it happens, and you move on and you rebound from it. So
Yeah, all right. Well, let's move on to our final match that we're going to be discussing here. And again, like I mentioned up top, this is a spoiler discussion on the Chandru versus Brandon Hanna match. We got it through availability on Patreon, and so we're going to be discussing it because this is the only time that we're going to be doing the show this week. And so if you have not seen the match, warning you now. Again, Brian will tackle the timestamps below, so you'll see what we talk about next and
like
how.
a woo woo woo.
Yeah, like some kind of siren or something, or a little sign or something. But yeah, so you have been warned. You have been warned. All right, so Chandru and Brandon Hanna, our first Innergeekdom match of the year.
Yep.
We have Swag again versus the Den. Den coming back after a few weeks off. To a match that, look, they were 1-1 against each other. They only had one match that was directly against each other, and Chandru took that match. So there was definitely a little bit of a rivalry going on between these two players.
A lot of ish talking.
Yes, exactly. And it was a really cool...
Friendly ish talking.
A lot of fun intro promo beforehand. Chandru has always kind of battled that line between heel and face. He's much more of a face player, but he battles the line a little bit with some of the things that he says.
I wouldn't say so much heel. It's almost to me like I get like overexcited, energetic kid that doesn't know
what to say or when to say it.
Not what to say, but like says stuff, and then it sounds like good in the moment, but it's like when you look back, you're like, oh, that might have been a little bit mean. But
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
To say him being a heel, or even close to it, I don't know. I think it's just more like that energetic kid that says whatever comes to his mind.
I guess we'll have to wait to see what happens. So, but yeah, we went into this match, excuse me. This was the one that we both decided to choose Chandru on.
Yeah.
We went on the same side of this one. We both chose Swag, and it ended up being the right choice because Chandru did not miss a question. He ripped through his questions in his category of Star Trek in the second round. Neither of them went perfect in the first round. No, excuse me. Chandru went perfect in the first round. You are correct. And so, we aren't surprised by the victory.
I'm not.
But we are surprised that it was TKO. At least I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Brandon Hanna seemed almost kind of off.
Flustered a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's hard to say he was off because, I mean, he only missed one question in the first round. But, like, once it got to the wheel, I think once he got to his turn in the wheel, after seeing Chandru just burn through his category, it almost was like, crap, I'm going to have to be, like, perfect to do this. And maybe he got into his head a little bit because his demeanor kind of changed. It almost went from, like ready to go to just kind of like, I don't know, like that. I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, Chandru is one of those people, like, he's gonna know it for the most part. So you need to, like, be prepared to be behind at some point and not let that fluster you. And I think that kind of hit Brandon a little bit in this one. Because, in my opinion, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't know what he's thinking, but it just seemed like him seeing Chandru burn through that Star Trek like he did, just literally, like, question for question for question. I mean, he was even saying, like, that one question, what was the year? He knew the date.
2066.
Yeah, and he was like, April 5th or whatever it was. And it's just like, that would mess with me, the fact that he's just tearing through these categories, even the multiple choices he was getting right. And he stole points from...
Yeah, so it was 11-9 after the first round. Chandler, he spun Star Trek, stuck with it. He ended up at 19 afterwards. And then Brandon Hanna went up and spun the wheel. He landed on DCEU movies, which is a strength. But Chandler walked away with 2 steals for 1 point, ending up at 21. And so the match ended at 21-18.
Yeah.
But Brandon Hanna had 16 after the second round, so he didn't score very many points.
Yeah, it's could be demoralizing, and that could be what makes the difference in your game. And I mean, he even said in the post interview, like, I knew those answers, so maybe he got into his head a little bit, and it affected the match and his performance.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen very little of both of them. They, Chandru was 3-2 beforehand, and Brandon Hanna was only 2-1. So they're relatively new, and we have to remember these Innergeekdom matches for the past few years have been spaced out so far apart.
Yeah,
it's hard to remember what they do unless they're named like Kevin Smith or Kalinowski. Let's face it.
If you're under 5 matches, you're relatively new.
Yeah. So, but these two, out of all the other Innergeekdom players, right, along with like a name like an Adam Lovick or someone like that, they've been making a name for themselves because they have this little rivalry going on. I think that for the time being, the rivalry is squashed. I think Chandru has now proven that he is someone that could really make massive noise in the Innergeekdom division this year. And he said it afterwards. He said that having the faction and most of all Winston on his corner is so different because all you have to do is trivia. Yeah. You can let your manager do everything else in the league. All you have to do is trivia and worry about the answering the questions. And like he said, I don't care if I, even though he was kind of like contradicting himself, I don't care if I win or lose. I just wanted to answer every question correctly, which is what he did.
Yeah.
And most of the time, like you said on the reaction, that's what's going to get you a win.
Yeah.
And so if he continues to do that, I mean, he could be the one that we're talking about at the end of the year for going up against someone like a Smets.
Absolutely. I mean, he went against Smets
and took him to the brink.
Lost off of a 5-point question. So, I mean, to say that he doesn't know his stuff would be stupid. To say that he isn't going to be a top performer, you're kidding yourself, because this kid he told us at the awards, like, he's like, I'm coming for the belt this year.
He's ready.
Yeah.
He's 100% ready.
So, if anyone takes him lightly, they should be worried, because he is going to be a wrecking ball through this league, and having a group of people, a team, and a manager is only going to help him. He was doing all he was doing by himself.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better when you have people there to support you, and if that's the case, people need to be scared, or at least not take him lightly, because he is going to run a perfect game on you. If you slip up, it might cost you a win.
Yeah, and like I said on the reaction, I talked about how 2020 seems to be the year of like this new crop of players coming in, right? Mm-hmm. This just kind of crossed my mind, but we had talked about
saying the new guard.
Well, new guard. That's I like that term a little bit. I talked about earlier with Final Exam how they're so different from the Team Corruptions and the Founding Fathers, and like they're similar to Shazam, where they just kind of go out there, they have fun.
There might be real rejects do that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that plays into what I'm about to say.
Oh, perfect.
2020 isn't just that doesn't seem to be the year of the new guard, but it also kind of feels like the year of like teams who are almost like the show people of the league, right? You have, you mentioned the real rejects, Final Exam kind of playing into the characters, right? You have Shazam still. Then you go to the Innergeekdom, who's super serious and always at the top. You have the Kalinowskis and the Smets, who's coming right off their heels, who are very popular and have the character aspect, Chandru and Robert Parker, right? You go to the singles, you have some characters there who are taking a little bit more fun. They're having, a good time with this league and get the character aspect of it, and they're coming for everything. It almost seems like the league is kind of turning over a little bit, where all these super serious players, they're still there, but if they don't look out for these more fun, relaxed players who are out there to have fun and kind of just do their thing, it could be the time to where all these players start to shifting gears And we see this league where there's like parties and entrances and dances and like all these crazy things going on, and all those players have belts around their shoulders.
Yep.
Like that would be really fun to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could definitely see where it changes, where these super serious, super focused, like taking it very serious people start to be the lower end, in these fun, energetic, loose kind of people are the
it
ones
might be
that
a head game too.
Yeah.
It might get into their head a little bit.
I mean, the ones that take it more serious, at least from what I feel we've seen this year, are the ones that have been ending up losing.
Well, we just talked about Irwin and Snyder. Irwin was like, dude, you got this. Like, answer this.
Yeah.
Like, he's so free, but Snyder's over there like, I gotta get this. And
Yeah.
he ended up on the losing side of it.
Yeah, we could be a completely different league by the end of this, seeing these more serious teams fade out, where it's not fade out, but not getting these wins that you would imagine them getting. I mean, we have teams like Founding Fathers, they take it very serious. Corruption, they take it very serious. But if you have teams like Paul Yama and Lon Harris, where it's more relaxed.
Paul and Tom.
Huh?
Paul and Tom.
Or
Real
Rejects.
Shazam.
Any of those people can take you out. And just by those 6 names we said, 4 of them are more fun, relaxed to the 2 that take it seriously. Mm-hmm. It might be a changing of the thing where people that are taking it so seriously you might be not getting the support from the fans too that you used to be getting.
Yeah, and I mean, as an athlete and playing sports in the past, like knowing that plays into it so much, I played baseball for a long time, and the one thing that I can compare this to at the moment is not just like going out there and having fun, but when you grip a baseball bat, you're always told to leave your hands loose, because if not, you're going to be too tense and you're going to screw up. It's the same thing with this league, right? It works for some people, and that's fine. It's worked for Kalinowski, Roca, Dan Merle, Chance Ellison. It worked for Mark Riley. It worked for all these players for so long, right? Kevin Smets, of course. But if you hold on to that bat for too long that way, your hands are going to start to get tired. And that very well may be the case this year, where some players are coming in with their hands loose and they're just ready to take the belts from these people. Yeah. And that's why I'm so flippin' excited to see what happens in 2020.
I know.
Because it's not, right, like Bateman was last year, Paulo Yama was last year, Kevin Smets was last year, but they were always kind of there, right? They were always kind of like nipping at the heels. Chandru can come out of nowhere. Final Exam can come out of nowhere. You can have a singles player that we have no idea who, we don't even know anybody at this point, could come out of nowhere to take that belt from Dan Merle. We don't know. And so it's very exciting because you have all these new names, these new identities, these new teams, these new managers that are playing into this game. And it just feels fun and fresh, and it's exciting to see, and we're enjoying it. And Chandru is at the base of that with a lot of other players, but I think that it's something that's very exciting for the league, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more with you.
Cool. All right. Any last thoughts on Chandru versus Brandon Hanna?
No, I'm. It's funny because I can't believe that was our first Innergeekdom match. Like, I feel like we've done a bunch of them, but
we were supposed to have one at the beginning of the year. Poor Brandon Hanna, though. 2 straight matches where he's had the 5-point Star Wars question that's just stumped him. 2 very hard questions
against Chandru.
Yes, and so I have no doubt that he'll be back. He's a great Innergeekdom player, and so I definitely think we'll see him again. But for the match reactions, that is it, guys. And so we covered, just a quick recap, we covered the Throwdown of the Family versus Team Corruption, Final Exam versus Experiment, Ethan Irwin versus Jeff Snyder, and Chandru versus Brandon Hanna. And for now, we're going to go on to our league update, which includes our points and kind of how the league is shaken up since those matches and since we have been last on the show. And I will hand that over to my co-host, where he will break down the points for you. What do we got, Brian?
Okay, so this is kind of spoilery because we are
yes, you are correct.
So if you don't want to know who wins the Chandru and Brandon Hanna match, I would suggest not listening to this part either, because we are going to put the updated points into the standings. So, again, spoiler starting now. At first place, we have Finstock Exchange there, sitting at the top with 11 points.
No surprise.
Yeah, I mean...
They've also had the most matches.
Yeah, they've had the most matches. They had a freaking championship match where...
They have 2 more matches than anybody and 4 more than the person in third.
Exactly. We have a 2-way tie currently because of the Chandru match between the Den and Swag, both at 7 points. Again, that is because of Chandru winning his match and getting that TKO gave them the extra points. We have a 2-way tie for 4th place between the Rockstars and the Burning Droogs, both at 4 points. Then we go down to 6th place, which is the Corky Mercs with 3 points.
I need to see more of them.
Yeah, I know.
They're who I chose to ride and die with this year, man. Yeah. I gotta see more of them.
You have to watch Koi's stuff. He's
Koi
quarantined himself.
Yeah.
He quarantined himself, and the poor guy's going nuts. 7th place is the Usual Suspects with 2 points. 8th place is Corruption with 2 points as well. But they are in 8th place because they have played an extra match. And 9th place, rounding out the standings, is the Dungeon with 0 points, even though they have had 2 matches. So, yeah.
What are their 2 matches?
Off the top of my head. You're putting me on the spot.
I know, I'm trying to think of what are their 2 matches. I know that one of them was... it was the teams match, right, with Video Drew.
Yes.
And Rick Hong. But what was the other one?
I'm trying to find my little chart. It was. I'm trying to see. It was. Adam Witt and Sullivan.
The Star Wars match. That's what it was. You are correct. Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, look. Yeah, it's still very early.
Very early.
And, it may look unfair when you look at the points and what they look like as far as standings go, but we can use Swag as an example right now. They had 2 matches before the Chandru match. And because of Chandru, because he not only won, and a win in Innergeekdom and Star Wars is 2 points, but a TKO is also the same amount of points.
Yep.
He got 4 points for the faction,
yeah.
And they went up from 5th to tie for 2nd.
Yeah.
And so they can instantly change, especially in these Innergeekdom and Star Wars divisions, which is why they're so heavily important in this league. Yes, you're going to get points in the teams. Yes, the singles is like, it's the mainstay of the league. It's the division of the league. But the points are going to come from these 2 divisions, which is why they're so important.
Yeah.
And so Chandru picking up those points for Swag is huge because matches are a dime a dozen, and they're going to be very hard to get around because there's 9 factions.
Well,
9 factions.
Not only that is the TKOs.
Yes.
Are what are going to probably make or break your points because those are extra points that if you're...
It's double for everything.
Yeah.
No matter what point system it is.
If your team's not getting matches at that point, those extra points are going to put you in a higher position to win.
Yep.
Now, these teams that have not been winning as much probably don't need to be worried just yet. You're seeing a lot of the managers going, it's a long season. Shannon Barney says it every time. They've played 4 matches and only won 1 of them. They have a long season. They're not worried. People are not worried just yet. I mean, like we said, we just got our first Innergeekdom match. Mm-hmm. So to already be worried, it's a little too early.
We have 1 Star Wars and 1 Innergeekdom.
Yeah, so I mean, and a TKO win can put you right back into it. Like you said, Swag was sitting here at 5th place with 3 points because of Chandru's match alone jumped them to tie in 2nd place with 7. So I mean, unless you're the Finstock Exchange, who's pretty much just chilling right now, but probably we're not going to see as much this month. You shouldn't be really worried right now unless your team looks like poo-poo.
They all come in doses.
Exactly.
All the factions matches are going to come in doses, and whether or not that's how the schedule works out, I'm not sure, but we're going to see more of the dungeon, right? They only have one match. We're going to see a buttload of them more.
Yeah.
Or 2 matches, excuse me. And so I think that for now, being so early, even though it's March, it's still very early on. It does suck that everything going on in the world is kind of going to adjust things.
Yeah.
And as far as tapings and the live events for now, but hopefully we'll be able to get back on track for now. But I think that it's shaping up to be very fun because it has switched around quite a bit since this has started. And since everybody's got a match, because those first 2 weeks or whatever, it was only like a couple of them had matches.
Yeah.
But as soon as everybody started getting matches, this thing started switching left and right, and it's so fun to see what's happening on a weekly basis. And it's very fun to talk about.
Yeah, well, and I just thought of while you were talking about it. I mean, we started this. Swag is at 5th place right now. They're doing 2 matches this week. Chandru and the Paulo Yama versus Finstock Exchange. They could be in 1st place, or at least tied for 1st place by the end of this week, for all we know. Depending on how it works out. Because if he KOs.
Only if he KOs, yeah.
If he KOs Roca, Finstock Exchange is no longer top dog.
Yeah, and so, at this point, every other faction has to team up and take them down anyway. So.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, 1 week can change the whole standings completely. So that's why people like the Dungeon who they've only played 2 matches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not really needing to worry yet. But again, you've got other ones where it's Rockstars have only played 3 and they're in 3rd place. So it's just literally, it's too early to judge at this point, but it does make it more interesting knowing that 1 week someone can jump from the middle to the top.
100% agree.
So yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that is this week's A Certain Point of View. We thank you for joining us, as always. That is Brian. I am Jake. You guys can find us on Twitter at SchmodownPOV. On Facebook, of course. We're up in all the group chats. We're posting all the stuff in the group pages. On YouTube, as always. And the show lives on audio as well. So Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. Just search a Certain Point of View or Schmodown Certain Point of View, and it should pop up. You can probably search our names as well. A little bit of plug too. Make sure you guys check out our reactions. We're doing reactions to every match. Again, the Chandru and Brandon Hanna one won't be up until it goes public, which I believe is on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And then we will have one probably on Saturday morning or either Monday for the Paulo Yama versus John Roca one. And that leads into Saturday for us if the free-for-all does in fact happen, if they were able to lock it down, if the world kind of leaves a space for the Schmodown. Make sure you guys join us on this YouTube channel on Saturday for the free-for-all. We're going to be doing a hangout. We're going to pop the camera up. We're probably going to order a pizza, sit down, watch the free-for-all. We'd love for you guys to comment, join in, watch it with us. We'd love to hang out. And, we'll make sure to post it on Twitter and all that good stuff as well.
We also will have Oyama and Roca.
I just said that.
Oh, okay. So I'm excited for that match. It just keeps playing in my head.
But yeah, so I'll also say make sure you guys check out if you have not watched it already. 2 weeks ago, we interviewed Sean Sullivan on our show, and it was a great conversation that doubled our runtime. It was awesome. It was such a fun conversation. Got some really cool behind-the-scenes bits from him as well. But yeah, so Brian, any last thoughts before we get out of here, man?
No, I'm excited because for the longest time, I was thinking Finstock Exchange, it's almost not fair. Mm-hmm. But just seeing like how quickly things can change kind of like rehyped me up.
I'm blurry.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm blurry.
No one's here to see him anyways.
I'm blurry.
But yeah, I'm excited.
I'm blurry. We're good. All right, guys. So there it is. A Certain Point of View for this week. Thank you guys for joining us again. Brian, Jake, and we will see you guys next week.